We live from a Mad Mex restaurant. Hi, Emily. Just wait another 30 seconds while everyone comes in.
I love all the note-taker names.
Bubbles.
Bubbles. Comes clear.
Excellent. Everyone's coming in now. Welcome, everybody. Excellent. All right. Well, we might get started now. All the early birds are in. Thank you very much for coming on to our Lunch and Learn today. So today's topic is Payday Super, which is, a year away, but, everything has to be, organised in that time. So we have the wonderful Rest Super team. They're our platinum partners here at the FCA, and they are armed with all sorts of information today to help us. But Rest's been around for 35 years. 2 million members, would you believe? 310,000 employers, of which the FCA is one of them. A huge fund, like $90 billion in funds management. So one of Australia's largest super funds, actually. And today we're going to hear from two people. We're going to hear from Sarah. She's executive. She specialises, obviously, in superannuation policy, though, regulation and governance, ops, technical, security, and her background is financial services industry, so wealth of information. And she works in a lot of working groups and committees, industry bodies and government, and even a member of the Women in Super National Policy Committee. So she also has established operations of Gateway Network, governance bodies, Superannuation Transaction Network, and she's head of regulatory policy at Rest. Wow. So that took me a while to explain, but definitely an expert in her area. And then we've got Min as well today. He's got 20 years experience in wealth management across super, group insurance and financial advice as well. So he has an IT degree. So senior roles in business development, relationship management, of teams nationally across lots of organisations, including retail and industry super funds. So at Rest, Min is responsible for business development. So you will have a contact there to talk to regarding superannuation. So without further ado, over to Min.
Thank you, Helen, and thanks for having us today. It's great to be part of the FCA Lunch and Learn series. So just before we get started, Sarah's just going to share screen and we will get right away.
Coming up now.
Fantastic. So just firstly, a disclaimer. So everything that we'll be talking about today doesn't take into account your personal circumstances. It is general advice in nature. If you've got any further questions, please let us know, but please refer to the PDS and the FSG, which is available on our website. Also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia. We pay our respects to elders past and present. So today's agenda is indeed Payday Super. Payday Super is certainly an area of interest at the moment. It is quickly approaching. When this first got tabled, it was a number of years away, and this is now 12 months away. And so it's certainly an area that is topical for the employers that we look after. Sarah will be talking to us a bit about the background of Payday Super. What is it? What super funds are doing to prepare for this? And then I'll take over from Sarah and just talk through how Rest is preparing for this and how we're able to help employers with some of the initiatives we've got on the go at the moment. We'll have Q&A at the end as well, and so feel free to put through those questions in the chat. Helen will help moderate that at the end of the session. But that's the agenda. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Sarah to start us off.
Thanks so much, Min, and thank you to Helen and the SCF for having us. It's always really good to be able to engage directly with employers on these kinds of topics, because they often involve big changes, and we love being able to talk to you directly. So Payday Super, the concept has been around for a bit, but it is, I think, worth a quick refresher. It tends to have been something that came up and then has been put a little on the back shelf while we sort of navigated through the fact that the legislation didn't make it into Parliament very quickly. So I'm going to take us back to a bit of what it is. So this was announced in the back in April 23 as part of the financial year 24 federal budget. If it's passed, and at the moment that looks extremely likely, the reform will actually require employers to align the payment of their superannuation guarantee contributions, so their basic employer contributions that they make for their staff, with their salary and wages payments. And as Helen mentioned, this is proposed to take effect from 1 July next year, so just over 12 months away. What we've seen so far is draft legislation following some early consultation last year. And the intention of this is to address unpaid super through both regularity of payment and transparency, and giving employees the ability to track their superannuation payments. We know at Rest that the vast majority of employers always seek to do the right thing, but the fact is unpaid super remains a problem in the system. Looking back at financial year 22, we had 2.8 million Aussies miss out on $5.1 million in superannuation entitlements in the 1 year. And of course, losing those early contributions, particularly for any of your younger employees, really compounds by the time that those people come up to approaching retirement. As an example, if we did a bit of analysis looking at a REST member and with an average income, assuming a bit of salary, average salary growth over 4%, by 65, if their super was paid monthly instead of quarterly, better off by around $8,500. If paid fortnightly, $1,000. So you can see why REST has supported this initiative. We always seek to support our members by acting in their best interests, and with this initiative being really quite firmly grounded in the integrity of the system, that's why we've expressed support for this before. But we acknowledge that it is a significant change for employers, and there is work that needs to be done and preparation that needs to be made. So at Rest, we support over 20,000 retail industry employers. Looking at some stats that we collected, this is back in 23, but it hasn't changed significantly since then. Around 61% of our employers make contributions monthly, around 4% currently, or in 23, we're doing it weekly or fortnightly. That leaves about 30% still paying quarterly at the moment. So you can see this is a systemic uplift that needs to happen across the board to get us to a point where employers are all paying on payday. So a bit of detail. I will try not to get stuck in the weeds, but let's go through the headline changes on what is looking at changing. So keeping in mind that this is looking at the draft legislation, we haven't seen the final version yet, and the draft legislation was out for comment back in March. There is the potential for some of this detail to change. So I am referring back to the drafts, but acknowledge the potential for that not being exactly the same by the time we see it when it lands in Parliament. So what the headline is, every time you pay your ordinary time earnings or your normal salaries, there's a new 7-day calendar day deadline that's set, which is the due date for that contribution to be received by the superannuation fund. We've got an introduction of a new concept called the qualifying earnings day, like we needed new technical terms in superannuation, but it's a fairly simple concept. It's the concept of when the salary is paid. That's your qualifying earnings day, and it's important because not only does that affect the timing of when those contributions are to be made, but if there are late or unpaid super, it's also the date at which penalties are calculated from, and I'll come to those shortly as well. So that receipt by the superannuation fund doesn't count time that it may take the superannuation fund to then allocate into the member's own account. Employers are not carrying the responsibility to make sure that it makes it into that member's account. That is still 100% the responsibility of the fund to get that process happening quickly. And I will come further on to what super funds are having to do to uplift as well. But into the superannuation fund is that important date. There will be some exceptions around new employees. You'll actually have an additional 14 days. And then if you've got payments that aren't part of a regular cycle, so allowances or bonuses, those kinds of things that aren't part of your regular salary, they will actually carry through until your next relevant salary day. So you do get a bit of an extension there. There's also some exceptions for special cases, or if the contribution isn't accepted by a fund that you've paid after getting those details from the stapled fund search that you do through the ATO, then you've actually got 42 days. If that contribution is rejected, comes back to you, you have a really, you actually have a much extended period to sort out getting the new details from your employee and making the new payment. There are also changes to the SG charge, which is the amount that you need to pay if superannuation contributions are unpaid or late, and the penalties that go with them. I don't want to go necessarily into a lot of detail here, but I will say at a headline that they are far more stringent than the current penalties related to this. A couple of things that I'll call out is the introduction of this new admin charge, which could be up to 60% on top of the unpaid SG, on top of the interest for the unpaid amount. That amount is incurred where an employer doesn't voluntarily disclose. So the admin charge is actually related to the ATO chasing employers. If an employer is aware that they've got late or missed payments and they disclose early, those admin charges reduce very significantly. The other thing that's changing is the SG charge will actually be tax deductible, which is not currently. So not all elements will be, but the core amount, which is the charge that you need to pay to the ATO in lieu of missed payments, that will now be tax deductible after Payday Super comes in as well. There are challenges across the whole of the superannuation ecosystem, as well as potential benefits. We've got funds supporting employers really through education, but also facilitating correct data coming through and assisting employers to make sure that we get contributions to the right place first time. And we've got reporting, and we've got new requirements around resolution of payments, which I'll come to shortly. We've got the clearinghouses and the payroll services that you use now, or that you might use through your superannuation fund, actually having to do uplift as well. There will be a higher need for better integration with the payroll software, so that the data that you have in your payroll system is the same data that the superannuation fund is getting. And that is going to be a key part of making sure that this whole new accelerated time process works. So really quickly, what's happening for super funds? Expectations on how we deal with contributions is changing as well. So our deadline for allocating or returning contributions that come to us, particularly the returning of contributions is the big one for this, reduces down from 20 days to 3. So you can imagine with that, we are looking very closely at every element of where we can save time in that process, and really looking at how much more automation can we do, because that's going to be the key for making sure that we assist you to meet those deadlines. The data and payment standards that are set by government to allow payments are actually extending into the new payments platform as well. NPP, or the new payments platform, is a real-time currency transfer that will enable those payments to be made much faster, so that you're not waiting on an overnight clearing service within that 7-day requirement. There are actually services already leveraging new payments platform, and I think we're seeing some good results out of that already. This will extend that further. Another change is actually that employers will be able to check for a stapled fund at onboarding time and show that to their employees part of the onboarding process, which just alleviates that friction point that can happen where employers are trying to onboard new employees, but you can't do that stapled fund search until after you've actually registered the employee's TFN. That brings being able to check those details earlier in the process, which should reduce that friction point in the onboarding phase when you've got new employees. So I'm going to hand back over to Min to actually look at how we're understanding what is happening for employers in this space as well.
Thank you, Sarah, for that update. So as Helen mentioned, REST is one of the largest super funds in the country. We manage the super funds for 1 in 7 working Australians. We've got 2 million members at REST. But importantly, we've actually got 300,000 registered employers. It's a huge number, right? And so that provides us with a really good understanding of what employers' needs are, including franchisees. And hence the reason why we've partnered up with the FCA. We've recently conducted a survey of 750 employers and spoken to a number of our research consultants to better understand the small to medium business sector even further. And I guess not surprisingly, what matters most to businesses is having a product that has low fees and has great returns. But interestingly, particularly in the small end of town, you guys want super that is simple to understand. You want to be informed of the changes as they relate to superannuation, but more than that, you actually want a super fund to provide solutions that help you understand and solutions that help you cater for those needs. And so that's what we're looking to do over the course of the coming years is, what facilities and what solutions can we provide to employers to both inform and then help you along that path of meeting your SG obligations. Areas of greatest concern, I guess, again, no surprises here, but you just don't want to be in the headlines. You want to meet your obligations. You want to stay away from the tax man. And so I think Sarah's provided us with updates as to Payday Super. There's been changes, other legislative changes, which we've informed employers of. And so we'll continue to do that over the course of the coming years. A really interesting fact here is we know that Payday Super is going to be a catalyst for a lot of decisions, particularly as it relates to payroll software. And so questions that you should be asking your payroll provider. We know that frequencies will increase, will charges increase? And so these are the types of questions that you should be asking if you're reviewing your payroll provider. And we know that around 38% of employers will do that over the course of the next 12 months. So that's given us a really good understanding of what employers' drivers are. Sarah, if we can just jump to the next slide, we'll just run through how we're making super simple for employers and members. And so you would have seen quite a few advertisements on TV of late where REST is super simple, right? And so we want to resonate that for employers as well. And we start that with digital, or we start our journey with digital. And so we've got an award-winning app. 1 million members are already on our app. And it's an app that is more than just viewing your account balance. It allows you to transact. It has thousands of different resources available on there so that employers and members could get information to get educated and further get engagement with regards to their super. We also launched a digital wallet, a phone wallet, a couple of months ago now, and I think we've got 66,000 here, but it has ticked over 100,000 members who have downloaded that now. And so that just allows members who have left their employer to continue with their REST Super account into their new employer account. So we're really proud of that, and we, given our young demographic, we do lead digitally. From an employer perspective, and I'll talk about this in the coming slides, but we're currently reviewing our clearinghouse. And so we know that the clearinghouse experience needs to be efficient and simple for you. We know that data verification needs to be instantaneous because of the reduced times as it relates to remitting contributions. And so we're piloting a clearinghouse with our new clearinghouse. We're actually at the concluding stages, but we've got an independent verifier in there at the moment, and the usability score is 92.8% compared to the industry average of 66. So we're really proud of that. There's more to be done, and I guess that's what the pilot's all about, is testing and learning, and then when we're ready, we'll start rolling it out to all of our users that are currently using our current clearinghouse, and we welcome new employers as they look to move to REST. And then just lastly, we know that engagement within super is really hard. It is really complex, and it doesn't get any easier with all these changes. But we want to meet our members and our employers where they source their information. And that's not always Google, right? And so sometimes that may be TikTok. One of the really staggering feature numbers here is 149 million TikTok views over the last 12 months. Now that's huge. Australia's population is about 30 mil. And so for us to engage with 150 odd million viewers over that platform is great, because it's a big number, which means we're resonating with members. We're able to engage with them through means, and engagement is a good thing as it relates to super. Cool. Our employer value proposition is currently under refurbishment as well. And so I guess what that essentially means is what's important for employers of all sizes. We know that fees and returns are really important, but that's kind of like a ticket to the game now. We know that REST, or many people think REST is a retail fund only, or catered to the retail sector, and that's kind of been our heritage. But we've been able to utilise our heritage to create products that are actually beneficial for members across and employers across all sectors, such as income protection for all employees, regardless of whether they're casuals or part-timers. And so that's something that benefits all members, and it's something that we've derived because of our history and our heritage within retail. But I guess the three areas that we want to focus on going forward is, again, going back to the survey results and understanding our employers. We want to make simple compliance solutions. Right, so how do we make sure that you stay out of the headlines? How do we make sure that we're helping you with regards to your S3 obligations? And then I guess those two columns to the right there, not only are we proud of the services and the education and the relationship management services that we provide for our employers, we want to take that a step further, and we want to start providing you with tools and resources to help you be informed, and then to help you with regards to your obligations. And so the clearinghouse is one example of what we're trying to do there. Thank you, Sarah. So we've got as I mentioned, we've got a track record when it comes to educating employers. Payday Super is not the first legislative change. There's been the $450 threshold change, super for under 18s, the SG rate increases, of which there's another one on the 1st of July. And so we'll continue to engage and educate. And we've got a track record of that. Payday Super is something that's coming on the 1st of July 2026. We've got another webinar that's scheduled for next month. So if you're a REST employer, please register for that. If you're not, please give us a call and we're happy to help you out there. Talked a little bit about Clearinghouse, and the next slide will talk to you about some of the benefits there, but maybe we'll just jump to that next slide now, Sarah. So the Clearinghouse, I guess, is we want to make sure that all contributions made to REST, and importantly to all superannuation funds, are quick and seamless, right? And so again, we're in the final stages of that pilot and we're looking to roll this out later this year. But the benefits of the new Clearinghouse are essentially the real-time alerts, right? And so because of the tightened timeframes, we want to make sure that any errors or any data points that are required that aren't there, we provide you with updates instantaneously. We've also got the ability to manage multiple ABNs, which is something that our current system isn't able to cater for. And so that provides complexity of arrangements, and it provides an easy way for you to submit one contribution and one file for all your employer entities. And I guess lastly, reporting and visibility. I think reporting across entities is always going to be of importance to you. And so we want to make that process simple. And we want that reporting functionality to be there for you when you need it through report generation. And as I said, the results to date, we're not at the end yet, but the results to date are fantastic, over 90% in terms of interactive scores. Thank you, Sarah. So how are employers responding? I guess if I was to leave you with one point for today, it is that Payday Super is quickly approaching, right? We deal with employers very often. Most days of the week, we're speaking to employers and there's a whole heap of considerations as it relates to Payday Super. And so I guess the important points here is we want you to review your systems and your processes and look to improve efficiencies and resources. Look to do cash flow modeling. I think that's probably the single biggest hurdle that I've heard of when speaking to employers is, we know the benefits of this, Min, but from a cash flow perspective, it's going to be really hard on our business. And so start considering these cash flow modeling. Align pay cycles for all employees. Is there a better way for you to sequence your pay cycle? Many awards and agreements are inflexible to this regard though, so make sure you check with the awards that you guys are under to ensure that those cycles are compliant. Practice before the 1st of July 2026. Start embedding those systems now. It will come around really quickly. And then lastly, just stay informed. Stay in touch with the FCA, stay in touch with REST. We've got our contact details, which we'll share in a tick. But through your relationship managers, through the REST app, through the rest.com.au website, you can get the information that you need because as Sarah alluded to, this hasn't passed. It's not law yet. We think it will pass, but keep up to date with regard to those changes and when it does become law. And then just lastly, this is where, Sarah, if you can just jump to that last slide. Contact us. If you've got any questions, supersolutions@rest.com.au. One of my team members will contact you. We'll be able to help you out further. But thank you. I know it's been a lot of information in a short period of time, but now happy to take questions.
Excellent. So what questions do we have out there?
I'm going to stop sharing so we can see some people.
Yep. I have a question sent to me to keep the ball rolling. What should we do if a new employee does not provide us with their superannuation details or their details are wrong? So I guess start from the start.
Yeah, indeed. Is it okay if I take this one, Min? We know that onboarding is often tricky, and that often the details that people have or think they have about their superannuation may not be accurate. The first one is if you don't get details from a new employee, so you've given them a choice form, they don't return it. The next step is to do that stapled funds search through the ATO processes. If if there are super fund details there, that's the fund that you pay to. Occasionally, with particularly very young people, you won't get details returned from the ATO for that, and in which case that's when you automatically pay to your default superannuation fund as an employer. If you've got details that are wrong, it kind of depends on where in what point in the process you find out. If they're clearly wrong, your best option is to go back to the employer and get them to check. If you attempt to make a contribution to details that you've been given and they are rejected, you've got your first protocol is to re-ask your employer, but clearly if they don't have those details, then check the staple fund details on the ATO again, and then if there are no details there, then you make the contribution to the default super fund. Hope that helps.
Good one.
There's a lot of steps.
It's just keeping all the information right. I've got a question for you guys. I've got a franchise ourselves. We're franchisees. We've got employees. And so my question is, are we able to bundle our pay runs for superannuation into one payment each fortnight, like what we do for PAYG, or will we have to pay super immediately after we do the pay run?
So I guess what we're looking at is probably a within 24 hours kind of thing. Your immediate obligation to pay a superannuation contribution is on the day that you are paying your salaries and wages. So you've got 7 calendar days from that day to make sure it gets to a super fund. You don't necessarily have to make the payment on that day, but 7 calendar days to get to actually do those processes it can be pretty tight, because you're often, if you're dealing through clearing houses and those kinds of processes, so you usually got a process through your payroll system that actually calculates the amounts, collates them, puts them together, and then it goes through a clearing house. So I would suggest that if you're holding on to it for any time after your what's called qualifying earnings day, or your salary, your payday, then you're going to be tight for time.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if there's any questions in the chat.
Any other questions? If you don't want to.
Sorry, I just missed the end of that. I just accidentally click leave instead of unmute. So so typical. But I also was just curious about the answer to that question. So we pay weekly. Does that mean that the weekly super needs to be paid weekly? Then it can't be paid fortnightly.
Exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So if you have a weekly salary cycle, that's the day on which your super needs to be. You need to start doing that process on that day.
Got it. Okay. Do you think that a lot of companies will move to becoming fortnightly or monthly pay to ease that cash flow problem? Do you foresee that being something employers will do?
Have you got any insights on that, Min?
Yeah, I think that's, I guess one of the considerations is going to be around sequencing. And so that might be one of the unintended consequences of Payday Super is you actually get paid less frequently than you currently do at the moment. But I think, again, you've got to check with the awards, right? There's some stipulations in the awards that state you've got to pay quarterly or weekly or monthly. And so check that to make sure you're compliant before you step backwards in terms of your pay cycles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good question.
Yeah, good question, Emily. Thanks. Any other questions? Just take yourself off mute. Or if you don't want to, write it in the chat.
Everyone's a bit shy today.
I think we've done such a good job answering all the questions already, Helen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess we've got time for questions too, because we've got a year before this comes into play, so got a bit of time.
Well, certainly your slides were very self-explanatory as well. I think
That's good to hear.
easy to understand.
Yeah.
Could
There are
I
other
maybe
questions.
put a question out to the group?
Yep, I think there was a question.
I'm interested in a bit of a straw poll. I think you can do a raise hand of those that think they'll be ready and those that are really quite concerned. So show of hands as to people who think they'll be ready on time, assuming a start date of 1 July next year.
I'm the only one, am I?
They'll be ready. We've got your hands up.
One person that's ready.
Well,
You and Alyssa.
I would rather pay them and get it done, and then I don't have to think about it. So it works for me. I'm happy to do that.
Look, it is definitely our hope that that you can actually get efficiencies out of this.
Yeah.
The processes of paying quarterly in particular with things like reconciliation surely are not easy and not easier than actually getting it one and done on your payday as a bit normal business cycle. But I know that all businesses are different as well.
Emily, I think you might have had another question.
Yes, sorry. I was just going to ask, is normally when the government rolls out big initiatives and changes like this, they do medium to large businesses first and then small businesses get a bit more leeway. Is that the same for this?
There is nothing formal in what's been released so far. What we have observed is that in a lot of the submissions that were made to Treasury in response to that draft legislation that came out in March, a lot of those submissions were calling for either a phased implementation, so large early and small medium, medium and small following, or leniency, I guess, on the penalty regime early on and a phased implementation of the penalty regime following 1 July. But at the moment, there is nothing in the legislation or in the announcements from Treasury indicating that will be the case. Just that has definitely been a really strong theme of feedback from superannuation industry and employer associations and groups as well. So, and we know that the government are in the process of reviewing all that feedback now, and the minister is getting briefed by Treasury on those interactions.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
If there's no other questions, I was just going to say about your webinar coming up next month. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and, how to jump on if people are sort of still thinking up things?
Sure. You happy to do that one, Min?
Yeah, sure. We've, I guess, we will be holding one in, I don't think a date's confirmed yet, Sarah, is it? Hasn't been confirmed?
Yes, was this week, 23rd of July. Let me double check, but I think we're looking at 23rd of July.
There we go, 23rd of July. And so if you default to REST and you've got a relationship manager, we will send that out to you direct. Otherwise, if you're not with REST, just email that that email address, which was I will share that right now, supersolutions@rest.com.au. We will add you to our distribution list and ensure that you guys get an invite to that. It's part of what we call our quarterly education series. And so we know that Payday Super is going to be topical as we get close to that 1 July 2026 date. And so with the closure of the ATO clearinghouse as well, we get a lot of employers asking, well, we're using the ATO clearinghouse, what's a replacement for it? And so that's something that is on in July. Reach out to us and we can send you the registration link there.
Excellent.
I'm just curious, from the SFCA perspective, is there anything for what you would foresee franchisees being quite cautious with? Like, obviously, I have my perspective from a HR point of view, but from your perspective, is it something that, is there a tool, or is there something? Obviously, the session with the rest team could be something we can get our franchisees to jump on as well, and we'll do our own education. But is there like a checklist on what we should make sure they've got in preparation leading up that you'll be sharing, or is it just something we should generate ourselves?
Yeah, good question, Emily. I think we could probably ask Rest team for some information on that, and we can disperse it out to everybody. Absolutely. The other thing is like our franchisees are business partners. So, any small business is going to be feeling exactly the same way as well. Jared, did you just say something?
Just that he agrees with Emily, and can we help support franchisees in the greater readiness? Yeah. So definitely.
Yeah, good point.
Duly noted.
Certainly is noted.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That. Thanks, Emily. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jared.
Emily, all your franchisees are more than welcome to attend. Again,
Awesome.
just let us know, and we're happy to extend that invite out.
Perfect. We might even share the link. If you've got like a link or something, we can share it in our communications that we send to our franchise partners.
Yep. We can send that off to the FCA. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll share it in my email when I send my email out.
Yeah.
Rest to give me all the information that I can share to everybody.
Excellent.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that was really good, very informative, and has conjured up some questions. Thanks, Emily. And thank you to the Rest Super team for being a part of this and helping to educate all of us.
Yes, amazing.
Early in the piece. I know it sounds like it's looming, but yeah, it still is early in the piece, so we've got some time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Min.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Next Lunch and Learn is coming up again, Monday, 16th of June. We've got another super interesting, not superannuation, but super interesting topic from the NDS. They are going to do Let's Talk Disability. So another really important factor in our workplaces. So please stay registered for that one, and see you in a fortnight. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day.
See ya.
Bye.
See you, Jacob.
Yay.